Hey guys, welcome back to my old tractor shed. We're still at these gears and shafts and messing with this transmission. The other day when I was removing the shifter rods and the forks and I'm studying this thing up as I'm working, kind of became fairly clear to me that this upper shaft isn't coming out without splitting the transmission from the what they call the intermediate housing. Actually, there's a little tiny hole up here at the top where the oil line is, and I could look through that and I could see another gear. Oh, got studying up the manual last night. Oh yeah, there's another gear behind there. There on that end of the shaft, there's the same locking nut, which I'll show you in a second, that's on this end. Special socket to take it off. Although this one, somebody's taken it off with a chisel. So somebody has been in here at one time, which that's not a big surprise given the age of the tractor. There's another gear on that other end. You take that nut and the snap ring off, and actually there's two threaded holes through the gear that you thread in a couple bolts. I don't remember. I think it was 8mm bolt or whatever, and you get that gear off from there. So I may have to remove the gearbox from the intermediate housing, which means I got to build the support for the PTO shaft, and they talk about keeping this thing perfectly level. I can do it, but I sure as hell don't want to do it. I mean, I'm down the rabbit hole now. There ain't no coming out. But I've been studying this. I'm going to bring the camera around the other end here in a second. That intermediate shaft, or auxiliary shaft, what the hell do they call it? They call it a counter shaft. Counter shaft. I keep calling it intermediate shaft, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. The shaft that I'm after, it goes into a needle bearing in this housing, and near as I can tell, it doesn't go through into this front compartment. It looks like it just slides out of there. There's a couple things in there. There's on the other side of the gear, there's a snap ring which I can see, and then it goes into a needle bearing. I'll put a picture of this on the computer right now. That little number 2, I'll circle that. That, I had to use Google and translate, because I don't read German, but it says bushing in secondary shaft. I'll put the German word there just for fun. Not really sure what that's about. I can see how that shaft number 1 goes into that bearing number 3 at the very end there. What that little bushing is for, that's got me not concerned, curious. On this end, and again, I'll bring the camera around in a second. On this end over here, there's 2 snap rings, and I've been farting around with my wore-out snap ring pliers. I got the one free. I'm going to try and take the snap rings off and take that bearing off and see if I can slide this shaft. I'm going to slide that shaft back and get that snap ring off the other end. I'm going to see if I can dismantle that shaft. And once you get the shaft out, if I was to do it the way the book is saying to do it, you're going to slide all those gears off of that shaft. I'm going to try and do it in here. Can I do it? I have no idea. I'm making this up as I go. I'll waste an hour farting around trying to do this, because removing the whole transmission, like I say, it's not the end of the world. I need to go find some more blocking. I don't have enough blocking to do this. And then, of course, I got to get the final drive off that little forklift and blah, blah, freaking blah, blah. Maybe it'd be nice to do. I wouldn't mind seeing how all this works. But, yeah, let's just waste a little time. I'm going to bring that camera around. And I'll show you what I'm looking at this end. Just before I get to those snap rings, this is the nut that's on the end of that upper shaft. You can see here and here, somebody's been in here with a chisel. These chisel marks, of course, would have probably taken the nut off, and this chisel mark here is where they've tightened it back on. So clearly, somebody has been in here at one time. It would be curious to take the gearbox off the intermediate housing and see if the nut on the other end has been chiseled as well. If I have to take that off, I'm going to try and make a proper tool. Actually, I talked to my father-in-law last night, and he thinks he has the socket for this. But anyway, I'm hoping that I don't need to take that off. So let me move that camera down to the counter shaft, and we'll get these snap rings off here. All right, so this is that counter shaft. There's a little snap ring in the center that I think, I gotta turn this other light on. I don't know if I gotta mess up my camera or not, but I need a little more light. Eyes are getting old. So, all right, so that's the one snap ring. Easy peasy. I should lay these out in order probably. Should be a washer there too, according to that picture. It's held probably just with a film of oil. It just doesn't want to let go. We'll just leave that there for now. Actually shows washer 15 and then 16 and 17, but the 16 and 17 are separate in the picture. Wouldn't surprise me if there's some shims there, so I'm going to be a little wee bit careful. This other snap ring, I don't think you can see the eyes. They're up above here. I had a hard time with that. I actually have it partially removed. I playing around with my different snap ring pliers, and I do have it partially removed. It's got a lot of, that snap ring's got a lot of oomph to it. I'm putting these into those little paper cups. It doesn't quite fit, but that's okay. That should be 14. Now, I'm wondering, oh, there's the shims. Oh, no, this is number 12. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm going to put the picture back up. There's number 12, and then off the side, they show 13. There's a fairly heavy washer. I'm sure I saw two. The oil is holding them together. Or maybe it's just my eyes. No, I guess it is. I guess it is just one. All right, so I have to be real careful. Clean these up and put these away someplace safe. All right, I just went and got a different pair of pliers, and I got that washer off that goes behind that little snap ring. I'll put that with the snap ring. I'm just going to try very carefully and just see if I can't tap that gear from the back with a long skinny punch and just see if I can get it to, I'm going to clean that first. We'll see if we can't get that bearing just to see if it wants to move. There's another snap ring back here. I don't want to. Trying to get some light in there. Just trying to get that shaft to move. I've put the pry bar behind here, and actually I did get it to come out, and it's pushing the bearing out. Let me try giving it just a little wee bit more. I don't want to go too hard, but I definitely did get it to move. I can probably get in here. No, gotta be very, very careful here. That's still free. That's free. Just gotta make sure I don't bind anything. I definitely have a gap. There's a snap ring. I'm sure that camera's not going to pick it up. But down here, there's a snap ring, and I can see the bearing, and I've moved it away, 3/16. It is snug. No way of putting a puller on that. Do 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 do. At the moment, tapping the bearing down here doesn't seem to be gaining me anything, but I am getting it to move by prying in here a little bit. So, for the moment, I've got a bigger bar. I'm going to stick with this plan for the moment. It's definitely, and the bearing is definitely coming out. I don't know if that camera right down there, you can see the shaft is coming out of that bearing number, that should be bearing number 3 on that drawing. Now, that's still free, everything's still free. I think we're going to carry on with this approach. Now, go back to the other camera. This piece here, it's got a couple bolts and they're locked on, but this protrudes out a little wee bit right there. I'm hoping I've got enough room to turn that bearing, but if not, and I see it's got some threaded holes too, it must press in there somehow. Let's not go down that road. Not yet anyway. One challenge at a time. Let's try and get that bearing out of there. And at the moment, I think I may have to go get a bigger bar again or a spacer. That's moving. Okay, that gear there. Now where's this camera? There's a snap ring right here. And I'm reasonably certain I can get that off this end and then take this gear off of this end, because that gear is going to come up against, is that camera right down there? There's another gear down there on the, that is the shaft that has the pinion. So I'm going to run into a problem. I can go another quarter anyway. Let's see if I can get this. Alright, so now I am up against there. Oh, but I'm actually out. Alright, now I can turn that. We're making headway. I can turn that now. So here, I can get better access to that snap ring and then hopefully slide that gear off. Okay. I'm going to move the other camera back to wide angle here. I guess I'm going to need 3 cameras. So I just moved the camera that was on the bearing back over there for a wide angle view. It is coming out. I'm going to attempt now. Snap ring that's on the end of that shaft, that is number 5. So there's 2 of those number 5s, and one of them is the one that's missing where it's been welded. But I'm going to try and take off the one that's closer to the needle bearing. Again, I'll insert a picture and highlight it. Going to be a challenge. There might be some cursing and swearing involved here, but let's see if we can do it. I'm going to need different snap ring pliers. All right, switch the ends on my little snap ring pliers. We're going to see if we can get down in there. I don't know about this light. Light's going to be in my way, but I need the light. Oh boy. Oh boy. With a whole lot of unconventional snap ring removal techniques, got it off. So now, I'm wondering if I can, and I see actually that gear does have a chip out of it too. I don't think I did that. I certainly didn't hear anything. I'm wondering if that was, because up until now, I haven't been able to rotate that gear. It was that come from down around the bottom. That's unsettling. All right, let's see if I can get that gear. And I can. It'll slide off. It'll slide off of there. The collar won't, because of the weld that's on there. But I'm hoping if I can get that bearing out over there, possibly. Anyway, let's just carry on with the game at hand. See if I can get this bearing out at the far end. Trying to get right off the very end. It's out of its bearing now. I got a little gap there, but not quite enough. Not quite enough to get that in there. So smaller pry bar, screwdriver. Okay. Make sure everything still moves. I don't have that much space. Now that gear there, that gear there runs on a needle bearing, so you gotta be careful. There's a needle bearing underneath that one. Well, I've got another 1/4 inch. Let's take that. I can always bring it back. Oh. All right, that was some kind of a shimmer. Oh, that was the snap ring. That was the snap ring. I heard something fall. Okay. So now, yeah, I can see the snap ring down the bottom. Let's get that out of there while we're thinking about it. I twisted and pried on that quite a bit, but didn't damage it. But obviously, if I'm buying a new one, or if I probably going to end up at a tractor wrecking yard trying to find this shaft and gear, I'll get a couple of snap rings there. I'm going to put that with these snap rings. And that is number 5. Hey, that bearing seems to be tight on the shaft. No lock, no key, no nothing. Come back to that in a second. I don't have enough. Oh, I see. Now I do. Maybe. I need to get that bearing off that shaft. That's as far as that's going to go. It's now up against that collar I showed you earlier with the bolts and the locking plate. But if I could get the shaft to come out of the center of that bearing, it does look like I got enough room to turn the bearing and take it out of there. And then, if I can do that, I might be able to do this. I could get that gear that I freed up on the far end off, and then I might be able to just turn the shaft enough. I don't know. I watch some different YouTube channels, these guys doing all these puzzles, magician guys doing puzzles and stuff. They need to tackle this kind of crap. This is real puzzle work. Well, how am I going to get that off? I can't get a puller. There. So I have to stop the bearing from going back in. There's a snap ring behind there. I might be able to get something in there, and then I have to get a brass punch or something or other, and then see if I can convince that shaft to go back. But I gotta get the bearing to stay. And it's probably not all that tight on there. Probably if you had that out in the bench, You could probably wiggle it off by hand. So I wonder, I might be able to. Better glasses. If I had a small puller, I might be able to catch that inner race, which is, you'd rather pull on the inner race because the inner race is what's on the shaft. Let me wash my paws and think about that for a few minutes.